Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We from group 1. My name is Krisdayanti as second presenter and Fitri Nopita as the first presenter, and then Pina Baroka as the last presenter. Okay, today we will explain material about the population and sample. Please see our video.
Okay, let's just discuss one by one the meaning of the population and the sample. What is population? The population is the whole of the research subject. The value that is calculated and obtained from this population is called the parameter. What is sample? The sample is a part of the population that has characteristics similar to the population itself. Samples are also called example. The calculated value obtained from this sample is called statistic. In other words, population and sample are two things that are interrelated and inseparable. Continue to the sample criteria. There are two types of sample, namely inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria. Inclusion criteria, it is general characteristic of research subject from an affordable target population to be studied. Exclusion criteria is eliminating or removing subject who meet the inclusion criteria from the study for certain reason. Okay, for slide 3, sampling technique is a sampling from the population. The sample which is a part of the population is then examined and the result of the study and conclusion are then applied to the population and or generalization. For the benefits of sampling are 1. Save research costs, 2. Save time for research, and 3. Can produce more accurate data. Number 4. Expanding the scope of research. Okay, technique sampling also has, namely, the sampling technique can be done if the population is homogeneous or has the same characteristic or at least almost the same, and if the population condition is heterogeneous, then the resulting sample might not be representative or cannot describe the characteristic of the population. Okay, now for the types of sampling technique. Namely, there are two sampling techniques, probability and non-probability, which are also divided into many types or branches. The sampling technique or random sampling is a sampling technique carried out by providing opportunities for all members of the population become a sample. Thus, the sample obtained is expected to be representative example. A representative sample. Okay, the following describe the types of probabilities of probability. 1. Simple random sampling is a lottery system. 2. Systematic sampling. This procedure is the form of sampling by taking each case serial number from the population list. So, stratified random, which is done randomly or systematically, and terakhir ya, cluster sampling. There are times when researchers do not know the exact characteristic of the population that they want to be research subject because the population is spread over a very large area. For this reason, researchers can only determine sample areas in form of cluster group that are determined gradually. This kind of sampling technique is called cluster sampling or multi-stage sampling. Next, novel sampling. The sampling of the population based on this pattern is done by determining the first sample. The next sample is determined based on information from the first sample until the third is determined based on information from the second sample, and so that the number of samples is getting bigger if there as novel effect. Next, quota sampling. This sampling technique is carried out on the basis of a predetermined amount or a quota. Usually the research sample is a subject that is easy to find, so that it also facilitates the data collection process. Accidental sampling. In research, it is possible to obtain samples from populations that were not planned in advance. Rather, it is by chance that the unit or subjects available to the researcher when the data collection is carried out, and the process of obtaining such a sample is known as accidental sampling from the population.
Okay, I will explain about the one of the kind of probability sampling technique. The stack of straight fit random sampling. The first, determine the sample size n that will be taken from the entire population n. 2. Divide member of the population into k group, provide that k must be less than or equal to n. The last, randomly assign the first sample unit from the first group to from. Example, from 100 employers, 10 employers went to be taken systematically randomly as a sample. Complication of research. Group and then the best number. So the sampling that is carried or out is completely random, only the first complete of the first group. After the first sample has been taken, the second, third sample and so on are taken systematically from the second, third group and so on. Okay, thank you.
The next is steps. For the first step that needs to be taken in allotment sampling technique is to divide the population into unique units of exclusive groups. For the second steps is, after the population divide into subgroup, researchers are required to identify the proportion of group considering the overall population. And the last steps are, finally, the researchers conducted a final analysis comparing the proportion of the subgroups to the total population. Okay, the next material is about quota sampling technique. What is quota sampling technique? It is defined as a non-probability sampling method in which researchers create a sample involving individuals that represent a population. Researchers choose these individuals according to specific traits or qualities. Jadi yang selanjutnya adalah teknik quota sampel, yaitu metode atau cara pengambilan sampel berjata. Berjata dalam artian memiliki limit atau batasan yang merupakan bagian dari klasifikasi non-probability, di mana sampling ini menitikberatkan kepada peneliti untuk mempertimbangkan antara yang diteliti dengan data atau populasi nanti untuk dijadikan sampel. Okay, that's all the material from our groups. Thank you very much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.